Hello everyone, and today I'll bring you what if Naruto dated both Artemis and Athena the moon. The link to the story will be in the description. If you want to hear a fanfiction, please comment down below. Now on to the story. Uzumaki Naruto sighed. It had been what the calendar marked as 3 years since he had arrived in the new dimension that he lived in. When he first arrived in that world he had been hopelessly lost. All he really knew is that the people talked a variety of different languages and had technology and architect that was very different than what he was used to. He spent about a month just listening to people talk and stealing food with his ninja skills. That was also something he noticed: everyone had no chakra, absolutely none. When he first tried his Sennin mode he could sense the people but they held no chakra. Of course at the time he had just assumed that he was blown away to some land that knew nothing of the war, but that thought was going away slowly. It was impossible to live without chakra, but that was when the thought crossed him that maybe they were a different species of human. He thought he must have arrived in a different planet filled with aliens, but after thinking about it, he was the alien. Who knows what kind of things they would do to him if they found out. So he decided to lay low. He was in hostile territory for all he knew, and while he knew he was an impulsive person, he had to restrain himself far beyond what he was used to. Of course the threat of being a science experiment also helped motivate him. He began his hardest journey ever. Reading. Of course, if it was just a bit of reading he wouldn't have minded, but he had to read millennium of things that happened. But how? Surely such an advanced civilization such as the one he resided in held many documents and history books about the world, right? That was when he turned around and spotted the big sign that said library. He felt stupid. When he walked in there, he didn't know that he needed certain information, that he didn't know what it was, so he had to resort to shinobi skills. He snuck in and created a handful of Kage Bunshine in order to learn what was going on. Thankfully, with so many years working as a shinobi, he was trained to memorize details with minimal problem, and that was not exempt from a book. He read a good-sized book about the country's history, which he read was separated from another country centuries ago. It was pretty interesting, especially this internet thing he read about. A form of accessing an infinite amount of knowledge right in the privacy of your own home. It was staggering. While he got more information from his clones, he was at a loss. Apparently the era of shinobi, or if they actually existed, died over 500 years ago. People really didn't need shinobi, and as it stood he was more of a over-specialized bodyguard. But he had to start somewhere, so the first thing he needed to do is have documents that he actually existed. Next was finding somewhere to live. It wasn't hard to get enough money for a down payment on a cheap house. All he had to do was steal a bit from every civilian he came across. In between $5 to $10 was enough. Multiply it by 50 or 100 and he was set for a month or two. He had to take a few jobs as a bodyguard first. It was slow, but he got around, and thanks to his most used jutsu, he really had no problem from there on out. After a year or so, he decided to actually start studying. He was getting bored of being a guard, and it wouldn't hurt to have a diploma in the future. Maybe be a teacher. He had an apprentice before, why not make it a class worth? It was strange. If anyone saw him from the elemental nations right now, they would have called him a fake. But that comes with being the most unpredictable ninja in the world. Do what they don't expect. Then he started thinking of what had happened to his former home. The fourth shinobi world took its toll on everyone. After Obito, formerly known as Tobi, the leader of Akatsuki, was defeated with Uchiha Sasuke, putting an end to the Uchiha bloodline, there was a severe repercussion in the ninja world. He had set Kurama free, agreeing that the Baijuou, once they emerged, would enter a stage of hibernation to not disturb humanity unless close to destroying themselves. It was a hard thing to do, but it had to be done. But not before he learned from Kurama that his body was slowly starting to create a new chakra network, allowing for Yuki to be created inside him. The world had seen the horrors of what the war did to the planet and decided to let go of their hatred and start progressing with technology and medical advancements. The world was turning for the better at a fast rate, and while shinobi were still everywhere, they all agreed to seal the most dangerous items away to not bring any more misfortune. But how? Fortunately there was an answer. Who else could seal everything away but an Uzumaki? Naruto had delved into Fuinjutsu like a madman drinking alcohol. He found himself being able to think clearly for the first time. He later discovered that because of the Shiki Fun, half his thought process was sealed away, and thus he was only running at half brain power, and considering he wasn't a total idiot, then he was pretty smart. With the help of Kage Bunshine, his matured mind, and the help of everyone, he quickly rose to being a seal master worthy of being an Uzumaki. Thus he began the last mission he would do with Konohagakure before becoming a wanderer and helping the world along with its salvation. However, he forgot about one thing. When you mix various deadly, finely crafted weapons that react to the slightest chakra along with nature chakra and demonic chakra and the affect it was causing on a very complicated sealing array, things went from bad to holy fucking shit. Luckily he managed to keep it contained and protected the world from being sucked into some time vortex thing. But he got sent through. He sighed to himself, it had now been 3 years since. He had been studying for a year now and he had passed his high school diploma test or whatever they called it half a year ago. He entered a nice university where he was free to learn whatever he wanted. But lately he was starting to get interested in Greek mythology. He wondered why in the world were there so many gods, but considering the religion in the world, he was skeptical, but it was still amazing to learn about it and the heroes of the past. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Ares, Hera, Hermes and many more, how each god ruled over a certain thing is what threw Naruto off. Why couldn't there be just like a handful of gods? But then again the Titans were pretty much jerks from what he read about Kronos. Nowadays he spent most of his time in the library reading on campus. He was looking through books when he found a book he had been looking for a while. While he had read about many gods, he had yet to find much about goddesses, and now was a good time to do some reading on it. Just as he grabbed the spine of the book, another hand grabbed the bottom portion of the book. She had black hair and had alluring gray eyes. Now that he thought about it, he rarely saw gray eyes. Red, green, blue, black and even pink he has seen, but gray was a rare one. She was beautiful, she was smaller than Naruto and had eyes that seemed as if they calculated everything. Naruto smiled and gave out a sigh. He thought she was beautiful, but with his time with Jiraiya, he had come to know that beauty was only skin deep. Of course that lesson didn't sink in until he recovered his brain back. He could always read it some other time. He grabbed the book and gave it to the Ravenette and giving her a sheepish smile. "Here, you can have it," he said, rubbing his hand on the back of his head. As he was leaving, the women decided to speak. "Do you need to book by any chance?" she asked. Naruto shook his head. "No, lately I've been interested in Greek mythology, and since I've been reading a lot about the gods of Olympus, I decided I was going to start learning about the goddesses," he said. "Starting with Athena?" she asked. Naruto shrugged. "Good place to start. Goddess of wisdom and battle, sounds like a woman that has a story or 10 to tell." "Good point," the woman said. Internally she was smiling. "Goodbye then." Naruto waved at the woman who waved back. It would be a week before he saw the women again. From then on they came into constant contact with each other. He didn't know whether to be cautious or if he was being paranoid. But he quickly threw that idea away because at worst all he could get was a girl to fall in love with him. There was no assassination attempt at him in this world. Her name was Eliza. Apparently she majored in history. She was a kind woman but a very disciplined one. She refused to indulge herself in something. For example, one time she wanted dessert but restrained herself because it would be a bit selfish. Naruto just rolled his eyes and bought her some damn ice cream. They got along pretty well except for the fact that Naruto pretty much made her world very fun. It could be written as complicated. Not in the bad sense, but they just got into some crazy stuff, like somehow they ended up in a crime scene and they were the main suspects. Another time when they had to chase a damn dog all over the campus to retrieve Tsunade's necklace that she got him after the war. She was smart and admitted that even if he did annoy her, she wouldn't have traded it for the world. The main topic they mostly talked about was Greek mythology. They would talk and argue for hours, but it was all in good fun. They hung out a lot. He wasn't sure how to feel, honestly. Sure, he had his fair share of flings despite his idiot self liking Sakura. On his travels with Jiraiya, the old bastard dragged him into brothels. At first he was very embarrassed to see a bunch of pretty Nei-chans walking around in skimpy outfits. Apparently they found that he was easily embarrassed very cute. They talked a lot and some even offered him a bit of service. While he declined, saying he liked a girl already, and when he described her, they frowned but accepted it, but not before adding their own advice such as making a woman happy and what to do in bed. It was very embarrassing to learn the birds and bees from them. Then puberty set in. It became extremely hard not to fall for his natural urges. Finally, after some convincing from Jiraiya that he was a ninja and he might as well enjoy it, and an Nei-chan with red hair that he kind of had the hots for offered him, well, let's just say that he was glad that he was a practical learner and his stamina. He still giggled till this day of what he did. Of course he didn't have sex with every girl he met, he only did it when he thought it would mean a lot to the girl. Apparently he was really likable everywhere but inside Konoha. When he got back to Konoha, he tried to ask Sakura to a date but she rejected the offer. From there he gained the title of being a pervert. But really, could you blame him? Everyone else had parents or a clan to teach them while he raised himself. His only parental figures were Iruka, who was a gentleman pervert, Kakashi, who read porn in public, Jiraiya, who wrote the porn, and Tsunade, who was an alcoholic. He really couldn't help his own hormonal thoughts because there was no one to tell him it was wrong. It was just Sakura or Tsunade with their monstrous strength who were the type to strike before asking questions or explaining. While he liked Eliza and he was sure it could lead to more, He felt like he needed to clear his head for a bit before going into a relationship. Naruto treasured her friendship. She became the most important thing in the world to him, seeing as she was his first friend. He really didn't want to lose that, so he ignored the hint she dropped. Apparently that encouraged her. Women are so complicated. About 4 months from their meeting, Naruto decided to take a break and go train a bit to make sure that he wasn't rusty. Of course, Eliza was a bit worried when he hadn't told her where, but she let it drop. Naruto journeyed to a secluded area in a nature reserve. It was easy to get in and easy to hide under a bit of fuinjutsu. He could tell that there was something going on with the world he landed. There was a strange mist around, but he decided to leave it be. He really didn't want to get involved with the world's problems. Normally he would have been all for getting involved, but learning about guns, bombs and whatever legendary monsters, he wasn't eager. Of course he knew the monsters were dead, but with his luck, he wouldn't bet on it. He wondered if he should have thought it through. He was in the woods without a place to sleep except the trees. Oh well, he slept in weirder places. It was like he was suddenly hit by a lightning bolt. He still had the scroll filled with super powerful shit of mass destruction. He could make all kinds of things with Raijin no Ken, slicing up trees, using Seimata to shave of anything. There was probably stuff on elemental manipulation, and from what he learned from science, he could literally combine elements. Ha! Screw you bloodline limits. He could replicate anything. Oh, how he wanted to do Haku's mirror onage moves. The world's language was getting to Naruto. It was very fun experimenting with the elements. One of his favorite things to do was instant explosion. He understood that when wind was compressed it became hot or something like that, and eventually, boom. Instant Bakuten, or explosion release / style as translated into English. He was learning how to manipulate Makuten, out of pure awesomeness, also because he wanted to make a house like Yamato Taiku. Good thing he had incredible memory. While he would have just ignored it like all other hand signs, he thought it would be good to remember them in case someone could do the same technique. So far he had managed to grow a single tree. It was an awesome tree. It was big, thick and strong. He was proud of his baby. He really needed to rest. He had made amazing progress in the last month. He thought maybe he was spreading himself too far apart, but it wasn't like he had anyone to test himself with. After all, he doubted he could be beaten even if he was rusty as hell. He decided to meditate. Maybe he could connect to nature now. It was strange. The first time he had tried using Sage Mode, he felt another presence all around him. It was like there was a being that ruled over nature. But luckily the being didn't notice, because he didn't take nature's powers, he let it flow into him and use it. He was not stealing power, merely becoming a closed river that split on the way to the ocean. Yeah, he didn't get it either, but Eliza was getting to him. He felt something, a presence. It wasn't the regular presence like a regular human's. It felt higher. It was human-like, that was for sure, but it possessed something he couldn't describe. But it was alone and it was heading straight for him. He really couldn't underestimate his enemy, but posing as a regular human was best right now. Whatever the superhuman was, it clearly lived for a long time, so it was better not to piss it off. But all he had was a bow he used for hunting some game that he made from his baby. He had no choice but to go with that. How he wished he could find a blacksmith to make kunai and shuriken. Masking his presence, he hid on top of the tree he called his baby and notched the arrow. He remained perfectly calm and slowed his heart, using the bare essential of oxygen to survive. He noticed that as the thing got closer, that it was a human. Upon closer inspection, it was a woman. She had auburn hair that reminded him of the Mizukage's hair and had the strangest shade of silvery yellow eyes he's ever seen. The only place he saw the same color was off the moon. She was a beauty, almost breathtaking honestly, but he had no time to think more. She approached the tree he was hidden in, and in a strange language, she seemed to be talking to the tree. What was more shocking was that the tree reacted. What the hell? Some kind of nature magic? His shock made his grip soften and fly in between the descending branch and the women. Apparently the women's reflexes were fast enough to jump away before the arrow hit the floor. Shit. He thought. He really didn't want to start a fight, especially against an all-powerful woman. Those were always the dangerous ones. The women pulled a bow out of nowhere and fired a silvery arrow at him. Naruto reacted fast and jumped out of the way, landing directly in the women's eyesight, and each one had an arrow notched ready to shoot if necessary. She has amazing reaction time and perception. Naruto thought. She immediately grasped the surrounding around her and reacted instantly by firing an arrow that would have pierced his head. Who are you? They both said. They stopped for a bit to register what they said. What are you doing here? Again they both said it at the same time. Why did you fire an arrow at me? She said, with an irritated voice. Naruto couldn't exactly fault her. She was just shot at for no reason. He would be pissed too. Sorry, that was an accident. I was not expecting a person to be here, or the tree moving on its own, he said. The women's eyes widened slightly. You saw that? It was more of a statement than a question. Yeah, that tree is a weird one, who would have thought it could move on its own, he said, trying to blame superstition. The tree? She asked. Yeah, this tree's done weird things like grow from a seed to a tree practically overnight, and I swear I've seen it move itself before, he said, lowering his bow and looking at the tree. The women seemed relieved and didn't say anything, but then she had to ask. Now, who are you? She said. The name is Uzumaki Naruto, and you are? My name is Artemis. Artemis could say that it was the first time she had met a person like Uzumaki Naruto. He was a one-in-a-billion kind of guy. He was many things: kind, rude, clumsy, smart-ish, and most of all competitive. He gave of an air of confidence, but he was so childish in her opinion. But she couldn't blame him because right now. Screw you. My name is awesome. Your parents lack originality, naming you after a goddess, Naruto shouted. What kind of name is Fishcake? You have no right to criticize, she said. No right my ass. GRR, hold still so I can rearrange your face, because she was being childish too. Make me Archer girl. I planned a whiskers. It was strange, usually she was pretty reserved. She had an excellent grasp of her emotions and rule over her self-discipline, but this guy. Maybe it was because he reminded her of her brother and right now they were mock fighting? Nah, her brother Apollo didn't have whiskers. The guy just seemed to ignite something inside her. Maybe it was that competitive side of her that she had not felt in many years. Ha! I won, take that, you prude. He smirked. God, she just wanted to wipe the grin off his face. GRR, best 6'11", she yelled out. Why were they competing again? Oh yeah, they had a short talk after introducing themselves. He was an energetic guy and she admitted that she wasn't exactly a ball of sunshine, she was the opposite, her brother was the sun, literally. Then he mentioned that she was pretty unique. When she asked how, he said that she gave off the aura of someone that could do a lot of things but had to stick up where the sun don't shine. Oh. She was insulted, so she started calling him a degenerate and a vile man and then went on with her usual men are stupid, women are better speeches. Then came personal insults like name calling and such. Then they sort of got into it, a competition that is. I win, now what whisker face? PFTT. 1427. But it was amazing that a human was keeping up with her the freaking goddess of hunt and the moon, she should be mowing this guy down. But she had to admit that it was the most fun that she's had in years. Sure, her hunters gave her a good warm-up, but it just didn't compare to the thrill of a person on the same level as you. She wondered if she should start referring to him as her rival. She hated to admit it, but she was having the time of her life. Even more surprising that it was with a male, she still couldn't get over that. While she didn't have men and cursed them to the bottom pits of Tartarus, she still didn't really get along with them. Only ones she got along with were other gods, and that was still shaky at times. Oh, her brother, how she wanted to strangle him sometimes. Hey, don't take out your apparent anger on me, Naruto cried. Oops, sorry. She even let out her frustration on him. Either he was a good listener or he was some sort of special human. Nah. I think we should put a hold on this, Naruto said suddenly. Eh? It's been a week, I was supposed to go back a week ago, don't you have things to do? Naruto asked. He had been right, she still had her godly duties to do and she had to go back to the hunters. How did she not notice how fast the days went? Well, until next time. Naruto waved, as he got his things together and prepared to leave. Wait, she said instinctively before slapping her mouth shut. Huh? Naruto said, looking oblivious. I want to settle the score. Meet back here in 2 months so we can settle this, she said, grasping straws. She enjoyed her time with him, and she wanted to win. Sometimes she was petty like that. See you in 2 months then, Naruto said, completely oblivious of any hidden meaning. He was still slow on reading the mood. As Naruto left, Artemis couldn't help but tell herself something. If Aphrodite ever finds out about this, she won't let it go, ever. She thought. She stared at his general direction before remembering what she came to do. Quickly getting enough wood from the special tree to make a bow, she departed. Eliza, otherwise known as Athena, was worried. Naruto was supposed to be back last week, and yet there was no word from him. Of course she knew he could take care of himself, but still she had a right to worry that was in her own head. Who wouldn't when her friend was missing? She had to sit down and think of what could happen to detain him for a week. She felt like a overprotective girlfriend or a wife that was worried that her husband was cheating on her at this point. But she really couldn't help it. She was sure that Uzumaki Naruto was a one of a kind. At first she thought he was an interesting person, and she found him most of the time in a library. She had a thing for smart people, even if he was a silly one. But things just seemed to get interesting around him. Whenever they hang out, as they say it nowadays anyways, strange things would happen. She especially found it entertaining when they got involved in that murder mystery. That was the first time it happened in all her mortal/immortal life, and she loved it. He didn't mind any of her flaws either, such as being a bit obnoxious. Hey, being a know-it-all has its drawbacks after all. But he said he didn't mind, and when she showed how self-disciplined she was, he said he found it really cute. She really couldn't look at him in the eye for a week after that. How had she not made him hers already? She was seriously asking herself that. She was a freaking goddess. She should be able to use something in her brain of hers to get him. But no, she actually had to fall for him. She wondered for a second how Aphrodite dealt with all those emotions constantly. Oh, and she loved those whisker marks of his. She had never seen markings like that, and they reminded her of a fox, and the best part is that he purrs when they're rubbed. Hey, even gods think stuff is cute. Well, she finally decided she wasn't going to go on with the platonic friendship they had so far. She was going to snag him, and if he didn't feel the same way, then she'd rock his world. She loved to read, and recent changes on the mortal world influenced her. Damn Japanese people and their hentai, it's everywhere and it's so alluring. Even gods were perverts, they just have centuries of practice hiding it. So she had to take drastic measures. Sure, they would be questionable, but it was acceptable in her mind. She was going to get her man. So much for self-discipline, folks. So she used her godly powers to get his home address, and it wasn't total abuse of power at all. When she arrived, she noticed that it was a pretty ordinary place, a bit above average at best. She walked into the apartment building and looked for his name, Uzumaki Naruto, room number 9. Upon arriving at his door, she felt herself stiffen. What the hell was she doing? She was a freaking goddess, not some love-struck schoolgirl. She should walk into there confident and full of grace. She knocked on the door, but there was no answer. She decided just out of curiosity to turn the knob. It was open. She slowly opened the door and walked inside. She decided it was better to let him know she was here. She walked deeper into the house, passing a few doors and heading toward the living room. "Naruto, are you home?" she asked out loud. "Eliza?" asked a voice behind her. She turned around and blushed. Naruto, in a towel, all wet, his naked body exposed, and he was walking towards her in what seemed to be slow motion, his muscles twitching with every move he made. And then darkness. She wanted to die. Those were her thoughts at the moment. She woke up, or rather jumped up, as somewhere in her sleep, her brain finally caught up to her body and jerked herself awake. Right next to her was Naruto, with an amused grin on his stupid face. "Good morning, Eliza," Naruto said affectionately. Damn it, she should have told him her name, or at least a name closer to her own than Eliza. It was a total buzzkill to be called by another name so affectionately. "I didn't faint, I passed out," was her smartass reply. Naruto couldn't help but laugh out loud. Eliza couldn't stand it and pretty much lashed out at him, kicking him down to the floor and kicking him while he continued to laugh like a madman. Eventually they got tired of what they were doing. "So why are you here?" Naruto asked. "Well, you weren't back and you said you would come back a week ago. What happened?" she asked. "Stuff came up," Naruto answered. She frowned. "Like what?" "Stuff, rivalries, epic battles to decide who would come out on top," he said. He was telling the truth. She knew that, but he was hiding something. But she wanted to know one little teensy weeny thing first. Was this rival a guy or a girl? Oh, a girl, he said honestly. It didn't really matter to him. Athena was reviewing things in her head. Naruto was held up for a whole week by some random slut claiming they were rivals. Of course it must have been a fling or something, because the women didn't come back with him, and right now she would be damned if she didn't get him now before anyone else did. "Eliza?" Naruto asked. "Yes, Naruto?" Athena responded. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Like what?" she said sweetly. "Like, that? I do not know what you are talking about." "That look. It's like a wolf hunting down its prey before doing the deed." Damn, he had good instincts to figure that out. Animal instinct maybe? "Eliza, why are you laughing like a pervert? What were you thinking about?" Naruto started backing up. Eliza got on her knees and started crawling towards him. "Oh, just something very special." "Do you want to find out what it was?" she said, making Naruto back up into a wall. Eliza was practically pressing her body on his. I would definitely like that, but I have classes tomorrow and "Oh no you don't." Athena thought before claiming his lips. Naruto, surprised by her actions, stared at her while she attacked his tongue before closing his eyes. It was amazing, he couldn't stop his hands from roaming her body. His hands eventually came to rest on her ass before giving an experimental squeeze, causing her to moan into his mouth. The action caused Eliza/Athena to move, causing her to rub against his hardening tool. Naruto, still trying to get used to this, blushed as his friend/girlfriend moaned into the kiss before breaking apart. "Since when?" Naruto asked. "It started not too long after I met you. You were just so interesting that I couldn't help but fall for you," she said, although in reality it meant a lot more because it was rare to impress a god. Naruto couldn't help but grin. "You know, since the moment I met you, I always thought you were a babe," he said, and gave another squeeze at her ass again. Eliza blushed at his compliment and was overjoyed by this. "So where does this leave us?" he asked. "Why don't you let me show you?" She smirked. She was definitely going to ride him raw. He won't know what hit him. 2 days later, Athena woke up to find herself in an unfamiliar bed. She pulled the sheets off of her and gave a big yawn while stretching. Just then she realized that she was naked. As she stood up, she found herself experiencing a very sore nether region, but she didn't mind. It was a very good feeling. That, and she felt it from her ass too. Just what the hell did they do? Suddenly the memories started coming back to her. The 24-hour experience left her amazed. How the hell did he keep going? Oh, she didn't even know she was that flexible. She felt very sated at the moment. She found a pile of clothes on top of a desk with a towel and thought Naruto must have left it for her. He was sweet like that, she told herself. She entered the shower and reviewed just what happened and what will happen. She finally got her man. She was giddy at the fact that she could call Naruto hers. Take that, mysterious rival women. Far away, Artemis sneezed. But now she had to tell the truth to Naruto. Just how exactly would she do it and when? She couldn't just walk up to him and then tell him, "My name is Athena, you know, the Greek goddess. Yeah, I'm immortal and you totally banged a god." That totally sounded better in her mind. There was still to tell him that if she got pregnant, that their child would be a half-god and that various monsters would come hunting the child for fame/power or whatever evil people tend to plot nowadays. Maybe she should wait a few months. She just remembered how he milked her for all she was worth. Focus. She told herself. Oh, in that tongue, oh my god, that was amazing. Kya, she said quietly, she couldn't get her mind off of it. She was lucky she was in the shower. Kitchen, Naruto was cooking breakfast. It became his favorite activity to do. Why? Because the world had so many recipes that he never got bored. There was also the fact that he was cooking for another person. His thoughts were already thinking of building a family. He was happy. Since he was young he wanted a family. He knew he didn't have much of a chance in Konoha. That was why he chose to go and become a wanderer and get a chance to find love. Of course, there was Hinata, who said that she loved him but he just couldn't return the feelings. At best, she was a friend, and at worst she was a stalker. She did nothing to support him except watch from afar and cheer for him, but that was to be expected from a friend. He knew her feelings were honest, but in truth, they were merely admiration. No matter how courageous she became, she still needed his support, but he couldn't do that. He couldn't be her pillar of constant strength. He needed someone that could stand with him, not behind him. If he wanted to become Hokage, he knew it would be a demanding job, and a wife would be the source of his strength. He knew that she could not handle it. Any relationship would become strained until the position could be settled down. He couldn't trust Hinata with that responsibility and be her strength as well as his own. It would lead to things they would both regret. Then there was clan issues. While Hinata said that she would get rid of the caged bird seal, if she married out of the family, clan heir or no, she would be branded, including his own future children. Once that happened, she would no longer be able to be a clan head and thus never accomplishing her dream. Even if he loved Hinata, there was no way he would subject his children to being branded. In this new world, almost anyone had a chance of love, even the stupid people that just look pretty. He was no longer branded an idiot, but then again he was branded a nerd in his current location, so it was a total 180. He really cared for Eliza. She was exactly what he needed if he were to say it honestly. From what he could tell from his parents, his dad kept his mom in check and helped calm her down, otherwise he doubted she could sit still and raise him. It seemed he inherited that from his mother. He needed someone to keep him tied down and behave, and in all honesty, he could see Eliza doing that for him. That was probably why he fell for Sakura in the first place. She was someone that could keep him in line, albeit with violence, but she wasn't all bad, she just had a bit of a temper and was a bit feisty. He blamed his father for liking strong-willed women. She was great in the sack too, that was A+. He definitely needed to thank Anko for teaching him the tongue expansion technique that Orochimaru used. For an evil bastard, he certainly had very erotic techniques now that you think about it. He enjoyed watching her squirm as he was eating her out. He felt Eliza approaching him from the back but held his instincts back. He didn't want to decapitate her. Eliza wrapped her arms around his chest and pressed herself against him. Naruto turned his head to look at her and was captured in a passionate kiss from Eliza. His tongue probed her mouth while she moaned and fought for dominance, but she was quickly defeated. They departed and left a trail of saliva that connected to their mouths. "Morning," she said with a big grin on her face. "That was one hell of a good morning." "I wouldn't mind having one every day," he said. "So does that mean we're an item?" Eliza said, wanting to make sure. If they weren't, then he'd have him smited. I think it sounded more like a proposal in all honesty. That caused the girl to blush. "But yes, we're an item." They smiled at each other. "You know, it's still the weekend. I'm sure we can find something to entertain ourselves with," she said in a husky voice. What could she say? She needed a release. A rather pleasurable release it will be too. All Naruto could do was sum it up in 5 words. "God, I love this woman." "Hey Naruto, where were you born?" Naruto said, with a mouthful of food. "It's just that you never tell me about yourself. All I know how old you are and where you live." "Well, it's not fair that you know so little about me too, but I figured might as well start," she said, holding a burger on her hands. Oh yeah, he was in a bind. It had been about a month since they started dating. To his surprise, nothing really changed. All that happened was that she frequently came to his house now and stayed over for any number of days. Not that he minded, he enjoyed when she came over, especially since she was not shy at all about showing off her body. You would think she'd be uptight and very prim and proper, but behind closed doors. Oh, how he was reminded to show affection to her repeatedly. Apparently, from what she said, she had a lot of pent-up release she's gathered through the years that she needed to release. He didn't mind, he was used to violent outbursts and even dressing downs from his teammates. He was perfect if you thought about it. But now he really wasn't sure what to tell her. How was he going to explain that he was from another world that got sucked into their current world by some freaky mix of some dangerously unstable things, and that he was an assassin and he had enough power to bring the world to its knees, if all the civilians were to go by? The answer: half-truths. It was standard usage in the shinobi interrogation. Many captured ninjas would at some point give up information, but they either contained some truth or lack essential information. But since it was the truth, one cannot pick it up by machines or even using truth serum. Although he didn't know how Anko and Ibiki got all their information, maybe they scared the guy so badly he lost his ability to think and blabbed out everything, including how good his wife was in bed. Anko was really easy to bride. That's how he knew that. "I don't really know where I was born. All I know is that I came from a village called Konoha. I don't really know much about my baby days. I'm an orphan," Naruto said with a melancholy smile. While his childhood might not have been the best, he didn't regret it. His parents gave up their lives so that he may live as well as everyone in the village. While they might have feared him for what he contained, he really couldn't blame them. If anything, they helped him grow up to the man he was. He never regretted becoming a Jinchuriki, because in the end he made a lifelong friend. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to bring up bad memories," she said. "Don't worry about it, I made the most of it. Now look at me. I'm going to a university, I have a home that I'm comfortable in, and I have a hot girlfriend. How much more can I ask for?" Naruto said with a smile. It also seemed to help change the subject. "A family for one." She chimed in. "Yeah, that's a good point. Wait, what?" Naruto turned his head fast that it almost snapped. He wasn't expecting the subject to change to that. "What? Do you intend to have your way with me and dump me later?" she asked with a raised brow. "No. It's just too soon. I mean, we've barely gone out for a month. I mean, we're still in classes and I don't want to lose you because we got together too fast," Naruto said, his panic evident in his voice. Eliza just giggled. He looked so cute whenever he looked like an idiot. But she had to press on. He wasn't going to live forever and she wanted to spend as much time as a family as possible with him. "You're just looking for excuses. Do you not want to get married? Do you actually have a reason to not get married with me?" she said, poking him in the chest rather hard. His face turned red. She knew how much he liked it when she showed her abrasiveness. He liked it when his girl was feisty, not that she had a problem with that. Naruto, on the other hand, couldn't help but think he wanted to spend the rest of his life with the girl. She was perfect in his opinion, which oddly reminded him of his mother that time they met. He barely met his mother and he felt like a mama's boy. But what she said was true, he didn't really have any actual reason not to marry her. It might have been fast, but in reality, due to his ninja mindset, it was relatively okay. Enjoy it while you can is what Jiraiya would say before giggling away to find a good spot to peep during their honeymoon. He thanked God that Jiraiya wasn't writing his smut yet until his mother was pregnant. He did not want to read his parents getting their freak on. "Well, I don't really have a problem with it." Naruto dragged on. "Good, now we're officially engaged. Now let's go celebrate," she said, grabbing his arm and dragging him out of the restaurant before managing to pay for their food. I feel like I was just cornered by a beast. I wonder if that's how Dad felt. Naruto thought. What he didn't know is that while Minato was smart, he was inexplicably dense. So much in fact that even with Kushina hanging all over him he didn't get the message. It wasn't until Kushina literally told him up front that they got together. It was also Kushina who proposed to Minato because it took Minato over 4 years to get the timing right. Ironically, it was identical to the conversation he just had with his new fiancée. A month later, Naruto had set out to fight his rival as he started calling the woman now. It was actually very funny when he brought it up to his wife-to-be. Or rather, it was very dangerous. She pretty much walked up to him, grabbed his ball and squeezed them until they hurt and then muttered next to his ear. "These are mine. No one else can grab them." Got it. Needless to say, all he could do was nod. He was excited to face his rival. She was the only one that he knew of that could give him a challenge, and she didn't even question how he got so strong. It was awesome. Sometimes the universe seemed to go in his favor. On the other hand, Artemis had been a bit nervous. She had been thinking about the challenge for 2 months. When she got back to her hunters they were naturally concerned, but she said she found something interesting and decided to stay for a while longer to investigate. She really didn't want the girls to go crazy that she made plans with a man to meet again. Then as the days went by, those thoughts started to get influenced, especially by the chatterbox known as Aphrodite. She kept talking about the men she's met, the fun things they've done and so on, and fights and so on. It seemed that she came to Artemis to side with her for some reason. But as Aphrodite talked, she kept seeing similarities between Aphrodite's dates and her challenge with the blonde. Damn Aphrodite. Why did she have to unintentionally complicate things with the only man that she took an interest in? She felt like a tsundere character from the stories her brother read. Stupid brother, going to Japan just to read and play their porn. She really hoped that the blonde she was thinking about wasn't a pervert. And there she goes again thinking about her rival. That was exactly the reason she didn't want to get into relationships, they complicate things. It wasn't like she never liked men before, but she didn't love, especially the love-crazed ones from before. She wanted women to abstain from sex until they were married, but she wanted them to enjoy sex once they were married. So in reality she had no hate for men specifically, just the crazies. Damn rumors. Just because she didn't like men that were purely attracted to her by looks doesn't mean she was a bitch. Yo. A voice said behind her. Let it be known that on that day, Artemis the goddess of the moon and hunt and all that jazz did not eep out loud. Don't do that. How did you sneak up on me? She yelled. Damn, her heart was pounding. Naruto tried to prevent his snickering. Sorry, I used my super ninja moves to get behind you. That got him a smack behind the head. Stupid answers get a smack on the head. She huffed. It was the truth though. He muttered. He figured that no one would believe him anyway, might as well use it as a joke. Regardless, are you ready to continue? She asked. She wanted to get rid of the blonde, and if that meant beating him senseless then so be it. Actually I wanted to talk about that, he said. Since we're so evenly matched, I thought maybe we should look at this challenge from a different perspective. What do you mean? Artemis asked. Why compete at what we're both good at when we can compete at what we're worst at? We'll never beat each other physically, so why not in some other challenge? You may have a point. They weren't getting anywhere with how they were doing before, so why not? What do you propose? Well, first we have to figure out what we're bad at, Naruto said, his face assuming his thinking pose. Artemis was deep in thought. It wasn't a bad challenge if one thought about it. But still, what was her worst skill? All things hunting was good, she knew how to keep order if being the mother hen in the gods meetings had anything to do about it, but that was all her job. What about her personal life? Well, she had an annoying brother. She had the hunters that she cared for. She had respect from her family. The only thing someone, namely Aphrodite, complained about was her relationship with the opposite sex. She muttered unknowingly. Opposite sex? What? You just muttered opposite sex. You have trouble with guys? He asked. Well, yes, or no, but it's complicated, she said, not wanting to divulge information. She was just a regular human right now. There was no need to turn him into an antelope. Well then, we found your weakness. Naruto couldn't suppress the grin forming on his face. Which is? She asked. You're going to pick up a guy. It was humiliating. Of all the things to do, that damn blonde had to take her to a club. She never liked those places. Loud music, smelled of sweat too much, and the drunk young adults practically had no sense of decency. What was worse was she had to flirt and pick up one of them. This was not her thing, this was not her place. She could see her rival laughing his ass off out of the corner of his eye. That bastard. Her eye was twitching. Oh, how she wanted to turn them into some form of animal right now, maybe even a worm. Maybe even lower, dirt maybe? You'd look like a big thing, my bed. A rather heavily drunk man said, looking around age 23. He was totally intoxicated and was trying to get Artemis, who for the life of her couldn't understand the man's gibberish. No way, she's too hot for you. As for me, well. Another guy to her left cried out. His girlfriend happened to be next to him, smacked him on the head before huffing away. No way, she's mine. Fuck you. She let out a sigh. This was the reason that she never liked places like this. She attracted too many guys, and sometimes women. She never liked that kind of attention, the attention of purely physical relationships. She wanted something on a spiritual level, and back in the old days, women were thought of less than men, so it kind of killed her drive to find someone. Now, I'm sure she'd rather go with me, won't you, beautiful? A rather smooth-looking man said. Oh, she hated those kind of people. The playboys, the suave kinds, or any of those guys that hounded after the girls, especially the drunk ones. But in this day and age she couldn't just whip out her bow and shoot a man in his nads, no, that's illegal. Sometimes she hated the modern age. She felt the man grab her arms and started dragging her away. I'm sure I'll make it worth your while, he said, his teeth practically shining. Oh, that was it, he was getting turned into something lower than dirt. So low the rating would be him, the dirt, the worms in the dirt, the animals crap, the animals, humans, demigods, her hunters, and gods, and then her. About time I found you, I was worried I wouldn't find you, let's go, I bet you're hungry. Naruto suddenly popped out of nowhere in between her and the man. He grabbed her arm before starting to leave. The other man grabbed his shoulders in an attempt to stop him. Hey, where are you going? I'm sure the lady wants to stay here. Isn't that right, beautiful, he said. He didn't notice the fist flying towards his face. Let's go, Naruto said with a cheerful smile, leaving an agonizing victim on the floor. They walked out of the club and it was very quiet between them. Neither of them wanted to speak to each other, because they felt if they opened their mouth they would make it much worse. Naruto, tired of pussyfooting around, spoke. I'm sorry, he said. Why? She responded, having no idea why he was apologizing. I got sucked into winning, I forgot to think about you. I saw that you hated that place, but I did nothing to help. Man, I feel like a jerk. I usually pick up on these kinds of things fast, but not anymore. Maybe I'm losing myself. I would never act that way before, he said. Winning wasn't worth losing a friend. His competitiveness got the better of him. Thanks, she said. Maybe men weren't so bad after all. She was seriously regretting coming with him, but strangely now, it felt worth it to see him as he was right now. So, to make it up to you. Let's go and have some fun, Naruto said happily. What? She yelled. He couldn't mean. Movies, food, games, whatever you want, it on me. Oh, that's what he meant. Silly double innuendo. She couldn't help but smile, he was just different. He was making sure that she was happy, and he knew when he started to stray from his path. It's a rather commendable ability to have. She really enjoyed her time with Naruto. He was actually very clumsy when it came to the opposite sex. She wouldn't have thought it because he just seemed like the type of guy everyone would like. Even now she could feel it, he gave off an aura that felt like it kept everyone he knew safe. He also seemed to radiate power, which confused her. How could a human have that kind of aura? Though she admitted she might have had a thing for strong men. So you never told me what was your weakness. What is it? Artemis asked. She was really curious, what could make a man like Naruto fall to his knees? Naruto just smiled and closed his eyes, giving a sad smile. I guess. It's that I can't save everyone. He looked at Artemis, who had a questioning look. I trained myself to become strong enough to defend myself and anyone precious to me. But I know I can't save everyone, but I can't give up like that. I'd rather throw myself into the fire to save a friend, even if that friend wants to kill me for it. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not very good with words, he said, rubbing the back of his head. Artemis nodded. You know you can't save everyone, but you won't give up because it's impossible. You'd rather try and die than give up. That's what you were saying, right? She said. Ah, yeah, that. Man, you're smart, how come I didn't think of that? He muttered. Because you're an idiot, she said playfully. She got a glare from Naruto. But you're a nice idiot who would do anything to protect his friends, and I happen to like those kinds of idiots, she said with a smile. Naruto just scratched his cheeks and gave an awkward laugh. He still wasn't used to being praised. Thanks, it means a lot. Don't get an ego. I was just telling the truth. She huffed. Naruto gave a deadpan look. You just had to say that. And you looked so cute just then, Naruto said. Idiot, she said with a slight blush on her cheeks. But I'm your idiot, he said, grinning. Damn straight, she said, smiling. They left it at that, in comfortable silence. Artemis thought idly of what a relationship with Naruto would be like. Eventually, in every kind of relationship, each one thinks of how life with the other could go with. Artemis preferred to do it sooner than later. She admitted that she wouldn't have minded. Sure, he may be a bit of an idiot and rude, and a bit of a pervert. She caught him ogling her ass one time. Those flaws were easy to get past, and she could tell it would be fun to be around him. Naruto had similar thoughts, albeit at a lower degree. He thought they really clicked, but he was in a relationship already. He wouldn't cheat on his wife-to-be, not in a million years. So he would settle for being a rival/best friend, kind of like Sasuke except with his eminence, and they actually got along. Just then they heard ringing. Artemis looked in her pocket and brought out a phone. It was what she used whenever she walked around with the humans, and if Olympus needed to contact her, it would be through the cell phone. Yes, really? Right now? Fine, see you there, she said as she hung up. Sorry, I have to go, business came up, she said. No problem, I should really be getting back. Here, have my cell phone number, if you're ever around in Cambridge, Massachusetts, he said, handing his phone number to the disguised goddess. Thanks. She muttered, in thought to what was going on in Olympus. Until next time, he said, and started walking away. Artemis, just barely registering his goodbye, snapped out of her concentration. She figured that maybe he deserved a bit of a reward for giving her a good time. Just a small kiss on the cheek. That was normal for a first date, right? As she snuck up on the blonde, ready to surprise him by kissing his cheek, he turned around and came into contact with Artemis's lips. There was an unholy silence. They just looked at each other in shock. They were completely not expecting what just happened. Naruto was about to say something when he accidentally let his tongue roll out and caused Artemis to moan involuntarily. Now they were blushing and French kissing on total accident. They separated after a few more grueling seconds later and looked at the trail of saliva that connected them. They both said, avoiding each other's eyes. That never happened. Artemis suddenly demanded. What? Naruto said, shocked. Happened. Got it? She stressed each word. It would have had more of an impact if she wasn't a blushing mess. You understood, Naruto said shakily. Good, she said as she stiffly walked away. All in her mind right now was, why did he have to taste like ramen? Naruto was silently hoping his fiancée didn't have some sort of sonar that detected that sort of thing. Women have some sort of keen ability when stuff like that happened. 3 days later, Athena was mad, scratched that she was furious. What had that idiot Poseidon done this time? He was found having a child, after they made that pact to not have a child. Oh, she knew they would break it eventually, all of them already had. In fact, they were just seeing who had the bigger dick at that point. But now that stupid barnacle breath had to get Zeus to pass a law that they cannot interact with humans for more than a release because they were becoming human. What a load of dribble. Now she had to go back and be the bitch that no one wanted on their bad side. It was common knowledge not to make an enemy out of her, because she would destroy you, god or not. But now she was pissed, she had to let go of Naruto now. Oh, how it would pain her to do so. She just hated being a god sometimes. But she had a duty to uphold. She would find love again, someday. She doubted she would have the urge to do for the next 50 or so years, but she had no choice. So there she was, waiting for Naruto to come back from his challenge. Maybe he should let that relationship continue. As much as she loved him, they wouldn't be able to stay together. It would be painful, but it was for the best. Naruto arrived sooner than she would have hoped. But she had to do what he needed. But she wanted to feel that spark once more. That passion which she found only with him. Slowly, she dragged him into the bedroom, where they made love. Because in a few hours, he wouldn't remember her. Next day, Naruto walked out of his apartment. For some reason something felt missing, but he couldn't put his fingers on it. Like many things, he shrugged it off, thinking it was nothing. He made his way to the library, deciding to keep reading. He found a woman reaching for a book. Being Naruto, he grabbed the book for her. Here you go, miss. Thank you, she said quietly. Naruto stared at the woman for a second. I'm sorry, miss, but do I know you? No, you don't, she said and quickly departed. Naruto just had a question mark on his head. Athena left in a hurry. She manipulated the mist to manipulate him to a shocking degree. He was really resistant for some reason. Her job was done and she hoped she would never run into him again. Naruto, who was still confused, felt a vibration in his pocket and picked it up. Hello, I'm Naruto? The voice he identified as Artemis said. Artemis, what's wrong? He asked. Can we meet? I need to ask you a favor. She asked. All right, I'll be there as soon as possible, he said. Things were getting confusing, but he wouldn't leave his friends when they needed him. "Thanks," she said. Next day at a hotel, Artemis was really nervous. Why? Because she was about to do the deed. She might gain a bit of infamy for doing what she was going to do, but she wouldn't regret it, she told herself. With the new law that Zeus passed, it made her think about children. While she knew she was going to break her vow one day, she at least wanted it to be with an actual relationship. She didn't want her first child to be born in a loveless relationship, but unfortunately she barely knew a good person to bear a child with. Her thoughts drifted to Naruto. While it might have been sudden, she really thought about building a relationship with the blonde, albeit it was a brief thought. It was a rushed job, she admitted. But it was the best she could do and she could ask for no better. She didn't really want to have a child with a god, all kinds of trouble there. She wanted to make love for love and not for a release, and if a child came from that, then all the better. Naruto appeared just like he said he would, surprisingly fast, she noticed. "So what did you need?" Naruto said, getting straight to the point. Artemis blushed. She didn't really know how to approach it. She figured a direct approach would be better. "Naruto, I know this sounds strange, but I want you to have sex with me," she said. "What?" Naruto exclaimed. Oh, he was really surprised. His rival just called him out of nowhere and told him to fuck her brains out. Jiraiya would be laughing and giggling his ass off, but Naruto just had to ask. "Why?" he said. "It's complicated. But think of it like this. I want my first time to be with someone I care about and not an emotionless one," she said. Naruto thought it was some sort of arranged marriage. "Can't you get out of it? Like move to another place or something?" Naruto asked. He liked her, but spontaneous sex out of nowhere, he was feeling used. Non-negotiable. "Please, Naruto, I'm asking as a friend, rival, possible lover and everything else. Don't ask questions and do this for me," she said. If she conceived a child she would explain, if not then he would remain oblivious. Naruto was in conflict. His friend was asking for help, but it was something that he wasn't comfortable with. But if it was to help a friend? "All right, but I have a few conditions." Artemis nodded. "If a child is born from this, I want to take care of it. I'd rather have the child than it be stuck in a loveless marriage or whatever is going on. I'll take care of the expenses and things like that if you promise to visit him or her every once in a while. A child should have both parents," he said. Artemis nodded. It was almost perfect. It was what she intended. She could just force the child on him since it's against the god laws to keep the child until they've been claimed, but he was willing to take care of her possible child. She really picked a good one, she thought. Too bad he wouldn't remember the things she did to him unless she did conceive a child. Artemis pulled him into a searing kiss, their tongues exploring each other's mouth. Their hands exploring every inch of their bodies. They both fell onto the bed where they started rubbing their sex organs through their clothes. Naruto was sure that Artemis was a passionate lover. A week later, it was not good at all. She left him behind, practically quitting on him like cold turkey, but something bad happened. She couldn't believe it happened. Why did it have to happen? No one remembered her thanks to the mist, but that wasn't the problem right now. That last session with the blonde just had to be it. She would have cursed him if it didn't happen. "I'm pregnant," she said. She didn't know whether to cry in happiness or in sorrow. She was bearing a child to her beloved Naruto, but how would he take it? She had no choice but to accept it. She bore a child to Uzumaki Naruto. Oh, how she hoped he would be understanding. She made it a point to go meet him when her child was born, but first she had to get Zephyrus, the west wind, to keep his mouth shut when he delivered the child. At the same time, Artemis was in a happy mood. Why? Because it was the first time she had had sex with someone, and she liked it. She regretted that she had not done it before, but no use crying over spilled milk. But what she was more happier about was that the act conceived something much more beautiful. She was pregnant with the child of Uzumaki Naruto. She had no problem with it. She was happy to have the father of her child be him. Though she had to figure out a way to keep it a secret from her brother and the hunters as well as the other gods. But she needed someone to take the baby to him to not arouse suspicion to who the child belonged to. She figured she could convince Hermes to do it. He was a tad of a pushover in her opinion. She also wanted to see the look on his face when he found out he banged a goddess. 9 months later, Naruto remained oblivious to what was happening on the other side of the world known to the gods and demigods. All Naruto knew is that he was under some sort of spell that prevented him from knowing things. But as long as it didn't get him killed, he was okay with that. He moved away from Massachusetts because it became too peaceful for him. He moved to San Francisco, just for the hell of it. He was enjoying his life, but he still couldn't get rid of the nagging feeling on the back of his head that something was going to happen that would have him by the balls. He heard a knock on his door, which was strange because it was in the middle of the night. He opened the door and found a man holding a cradle. While he didn't care about the man, He couldn't help but stare at the child. She had blonde hair like his, but her eyes were gray, like someone else's he couldn't put his finger on. "Can I help you?" he said to the man. The man just let out a gruff. "The mother asked me to bring her. She said to wait for a bit," he said. Naruto nodded. If anything happened, he was confident that he could escape with him and the child safely. Then he heard a cough behind the man. Both of them looked at the direction of the cough and found a man, flying on winged shoes. Now that brought some questions. Can I help you?" he repeated, almost sure where the conversation was going. "Yeah, I'm here to leave this little brat. She's a handful, you know," he said. Naruto stared at the baby the man was carrying in a cradle. Again, the baby had the same color hair as him, but the child's eyes were goldenish that reminded him of another person. The first man looked at the blonde adult and shook his head. "You lucky bastard." "Eh?" The winged man, now understanding the situation, also shook his head. "Wow, this is a first. What do you think, Zephyrus?" The winged man said. "I'm not sure, but I better get rid of the poor guy's perception. He must be going crazy with all the mist focused on him. Isn't that right, Hermes?" The man said with a smirk. "Oh crap. Gods exist? If so, then does that mean so do the others?" Suddenly a whole bunch of memories came back to him. He remembered Eliza, and he remembered Artemis, and he remembered everything. "Oh son of a bitch. I'm dead, I am so dead." Naruto muttered. The two men just chuckled. "You will be soon enough," a voice said from behind him. "You better have an explanation for this, Naruto," another familiar voice from behind said. Naruto slowly turned around to stare at the familiar figures of Athena, goddess of wisdom and battle, who he just figured out who she was, and Artemis, the freaking goddess of the moon. "Why is it always me?" he couldn't help but mutter. He's dealt with corrupted businessman trying to take over a country, fought a battle against fate with Neji, fought Ichibi, survived Orochimaru on a constant basis, survived Akatsuki, saved various countries, saved a priestess, became a hero, and then became a national hero, but he was helpless against the might of two women. "Well, at least you can say that you are the only human that banged two goddesses. That's gotta be some luck there, buddy," Hermes said while grinning. "You're not helping," he yelled, and caused the two men to laugh. "Naruto," both women said in sync. Naruto had only one thing to say. Women are troublesome. There were only so many words that could describe the situation Naruto was facing right now. A shitstorm of epic proportions capable of destroying the universe did not cover it. Not one bit. He could almost feel his balls shrink. Stupid balls. Naruto thought. You got me into this. Sure, blame the balls for every single thing. Right now he was sitting on the couch across from Eliza, now named Athena, and Artemis, now named Artemis. Not much creativity there. Athena had him in a death glare while she breastfed her daughter. Artemis was busy cooing their daughter, who seemed to be a ball of energy. Naruto couldn't help but ogle Athena's breast and had one thought at the moment. They grew. That got an even deadlier glare from Athena, though she was smirking that she was paying attention to her and not Artemis. Zephyrus and Hermes, well, they were too busy containing their laughs at the misfortune of the blonde. Naruto couldn't really hold it in anymore. He could handle guys laughing at him, but not when his wife/girlfriend whatever was breastfeeding his daughter. "Shut up and wait in the next room. The adults need to talk," he hissed at the other males. Hermes, who was still on the floor trying to prevent himself from ripping his gut, chose to antagonize the blonde. "Make us. We're gods." Zephyrus, who had enough, decided enough was enough. As he started to pick himself up to go to the next room, he caught the glint in the blonde's eye. Naruto, who was getting more and more pissed at the messenger of the gods' attitude, decided to put the hurt on him. The most painful way possible. Athena and Artemis were about to yell at Hermes to go away, suddenly stopped at they saw their individually said as her man walked up to Hermes. Hermes didn't register anything until it was too late. By then his eyes were wide open, in pain. He looked at the blonde, who was now stepping on his crotch. He watched as he lifted his foot and stomped again, and again, and again. So much pain. "Listen, you idiot. I don't care if you're a fucking god. This will hurt, and this will be your usual punishment if you don't listen to me. Are you clear?" Naruto hissed quietly, reminding himself that his daughters needed quiet. Why yes. Hermes squeaked out, his voice sounded fairly high. "Yes, what?" he said, stomping once more. "Yes, sir, master, God, just stop," Hermes said, his voice already sounding like a 5-year-old girl's voice. No man can resist the pain of a stomp to the balls, not even a god. "Good, now get," he said, causing Hermes' winged shoes to fly to the other room. Zephyrus walked into the room, very protective of his balls. Hermes decided to humor the blonde, and he admitted to himself that he might have been a bit afraid of having his balls crushed. That was. Athena started to say, watching her daughter's father in action. Impressive. I like it, Athena said. She didn't hate Hermes, but he was going to stir up her daughter. If he was going to do that, well, fuck him. Now, would you mind explaining to me what's going on? Naruto said, sitting across the two goddesses again. Athena and Artemis looked at each other. They silently agreed that they could rip the blonde a new one after they finish explaining what was going on. It might be too much if they did it before, and they could hold it as blackmail/guilt-tripping information if he chooses not to take care of their daughters. Well, first, let me introduce you to your daughter, Annabeth Uzumaki, Athena said as she slowly passed her to her father. At least he knew how to hold her, thought Athena. Naruto, on the other hand, was observing his daughter in more detail. She had his and her grandfather's hair. She was so small, he felt if he moved too much he would break her. Her tiny fingers curled against his index finger and the baby opened her eyes. She had her mother's eyes, the same gray eyes that would soon become the same as her mother's if he had anything to say about it. He would not let his daughter be a dead last. Artemis was in a fairly good mood. She was an actual mother, he owned flesh and blood. She idly wondered back to when she saved many pregnant women back in the past. They always seemed radiant when they saw their child. They wouldn't stop looking at it for a second. She kind of envied it. But now, she understood, it was magical really. Who knew a child could bring such joy in such a short time? She handed the baby to Naruto, albeit a bit reluctant. She wanted to hold her daughter more, damn it. Her name is Tsuki, Japanese for moon, I thought it would fit. Naruto held his daughter with his other hand. She was small. She squirmed in his hand, almost as if wanting to keep moving. A regular ball of energy, just like him and her grandmother, Naruto thought. Her occasional cry was nothing but adorable. She had his hair but had her mother's eyes. A kind of color of yellow that he did not see, not even in the elemental nations. A yellow-like color, like when the moon shined yellow, those were her color. He figured since she was the daughter of Artemis, she'd be some sort of hunter in the future. It might pain him later, but if she wanted to join her mother, he would agree with her choice. After all, a father must have unconditional faith in their children. Then something came into his mind. A father. He was a father. He started rubbing his head on his daughter's scalp. His tears streaming out of his eyes. He couldn't help it. He was a father, he had an actual family now. Oh sure, it might bring him all kinds of trouble, but he didn't care, he would protect them. This is what Dad must have thought. Naruto thought. He recalled what his mother, Kushina, told him back when he met her. His father, the Yellow Flash, was crying his eyes out when he was born. He called himself a father, he must have felt what he was feeling now. I've been called many things. A hero, a savior, an idiot, a lover, Dobie, knuckleheaded, the orange spark, but being called a father is the best one. Naruto thought. I'm a father, he said out loud, smiling while his daughters kept sleeping. Athena couldn't help but let out a soft smile. She knew how much a family meant to Naruto. What he must be feeling right now, it must be as if he was blessed, but it might become a curse if what she has to tell him. She might have been unsure to how Naruto would react when he learned that the Furies might be after his children. Hopefully he would make the right choice and send them away when the time comes. She couldn't help but think that he couldn't catch a break, living as an orphan and struggling to make his way in the world, only to get involved in their dangerous world. Artemis, on the other hand, was very much okay with leaving her daughter with Naruto. While she may not have harbored as deep as an affection for the blonde as Athena, who was staring at the blonde with a wistful expression, her affections ranged somewhere between like and love. She wasn't really sure what to make of it honestly, because they have in reality only spent about 10 days with each other. She was once again reminded that love is a very powerful emotion. But she cared about the blonde father, no doubt about that, a bit more than she should normally actually. But he was a fighter, that much she knew. Her daughter, she smiled at that, would be taken care of. She was a bit nervous to what her future would bring, but she would be proud of her daughter with whatever she chose. Naruto decided it was time to talk about what would happen. He knew this would bring all kinds of trouble. He really thought it would be best to stay out of whatever was happening in the world. It wasn't his fight. But now he was getting involved, to protect his new family. Thus, he lifted himself off the couch and put the babies in their golden cradles, badass cradles they were. He picked the cradles up and moved them to his room, activating the silencing seals next to his turn on-off switch on the wall. He gave a kiss on their forehead before closing the door behind him. Walking toward the goddesses, he took a deep breath and asked. So, can we start from the beginning? Naruto asked. Artemis and Athena both looked at each other and nodded. They already assumed what he was going to ask. Well, I'll try to make it as simple as possible. You know the gods and goddesses of Olympus? Yes, they exist. Mount Olympus moves to wherever the center of power is in the world, so right now it's America, Athena said. Naruto gave out a sigh. It was already a lot of information, but he had to ask the more dangerous questions too. So, since there are gods, I'm guessing that the monsters from back then also exist? Like the Mino, but he was cut off. Don't say their names, Athena yelled, causing Naruto to jump a little. Names have power, Naruto. It draws them to you. The demigods, the technical term for our daughters, call them the kindly ones for their own protection, Artemis said. So, what about the Titans? What about Kronos? If you can't kill a god or Titan, then is he still alive? Naruto said. He saw the both of them go rigid slightly. Shit. Athena inwardly cursed at Naruto. Leave it to him to pick up on that little detail. Artemis, on the other hand, would praise him for his quick understanding of the situation. Grasping the potential dangers even remotely was impressive. It's been taken care of, Athena said with a poker face. Naruto only snorted. You know, for eons old goddesses, you aren't a good liar. Naruto commented, drawing glares from both females. This coming from a two-timer. Athena scoffed, but she immediately cringed when she saw the hurt in Naruto's eyes. She cursed herself, her mouth always got away from her at the important times. She really didn't mean to say it as she did, but thinking about adultery and such disturbing acts with another person. I see. And what about you, Artemis, how do you feel about this? Naruto said, motioning his hands and spreading them, showing he meant he was talking about the situation. I want to say I expected this, but I know you're not that kind of person. It still hurts a little though. While I do not like to admit it, I'm a jealous person. Maybe it's a natural reaction after learning that someone I may love cheated on me, I am not sure, she said. Sorry. That is all I can say. Is there any chance you two still trust me? Naruto asked. They both looked at each other, until Athena chose to speak. We are not sure. Naruto was silent. He really couldn't tell them about himself anymore. He had trust issues. Many didn't know it, but he was very insecure about himself. It was a result of his childhood. He could not trust many people. There were only a handful who he trusted his life to back in Konoha. Not even Sakura was on that list because he wasn't sure if she would kill him in order to gain a chance to talk to Sasuke. Trust is a two-way street. If one cannot trust another, then it was useless to try. Once trust is broken, it is hard to get it back. I would like to say it wasn't my fault, but I doubt that would fix anything, Naruto said. Artemis didn't hold much against him because she asked him after all. She never asked if he was in a relationship. She brought more trouble to him. Right now she knew that Athena had used the mist to heavily influence Naruto's thoughts, making him forget about Athena. Part of her wondered if he was feeling used. She did after all ask him for it, but he was still willing to take the blame. Oh, he's so sweet. Artemis thought. Her maternal instincts totally kicking in as she started gushing at how caring Naruto could be. Or maybe it was her hormones? She gave Naruto a smile, telling him that she still cared about him. Athena decided to speak up. I don't know if I can. I want to, but she trailed off. Athena thought it had gotten out of hand. It was the first time dealing with these kinds of feelings, feeling slightly betrayed by Naruto and Artemis as if they went behind her back. But she couldn't fault them. She had a large part in this mess. At the time, Naruto didn't even know what was happening, totally oblivious of their previous relationship, so she really had nothing to complain about since the problem originated from her. She grudgingly admitted to herself that Artemis may be more desirable after you get past the whole I detest men thing, and all that hunting gave her a great figure. Yes, she was jealous, so what? Naruto was saddened. He felt that he lost another precious person. But he let out a sigh. He knew it would happen, but that wouldn't stop him. When has it ever? If there was anything Naruto knew about himself, it was that he proved everyone wrong by his actions, and this was no different. So, how exactly do you kill the kindly ones? Just get a knife and stab them? Naruto asked, trying to change the topic to something more neutral. Although he was hoping he didn't have to journey halfway around the world to get some lost artifact that was capable of doing so. It wouldn't be the first time he's done that. You actually need a certain type of metal called celestial bronze. It cuts through them like butter, Artemis said, drawing a knife and throwing it at the table in front of them. And swinging dangerous sharp objects has nothing to do with the cutting power. Naruto says deadpanned. Artemis looked a bit embarrassed. She never really thought about it. Of course it would cut like butter, any sharp piece of metal would. But it just needed to be celestial bronze. So nothing else would work? A regular sword, what about fire? Naruto asked. A regular weapon will cut them, but they would grow or regenerate back. The celestial bronze would negate that. As for fire, it will work but it's dreadfully slow. You'd have a better chance bashing it with a stone. Also, even if you do kill them, they will eventually come back. Athena offered her comment. Naruto figured they were a type of sentient life like the Baijuu, so he understood why very quickly. Are there any kindly ones near here? Naruto asked. Actually, we wanted to talk about that, Artemis said. We want you to move. From here, Athena said. Why? Naruto asked. Because this place is basically a nest for them, Artemis said. Just walk outside, you'll see them, Athena said. Naruto did so. He walked outside and he looked around. He immediately spotted things that he was not expecting. Some kind of monster-looking thing hanging from the electric pole, humans or what seemed to be humans walking around with one eye. Even a few looking straight at him. Why aren't they attacking? Naruto commented as he felt Athena and Artemis approach. Because we are here. They wouldn't dare attack you with us here. But still this is unusual. Even if they knew why we were here, this is far too many for it to be a coincidence, Artemis said. Shit. Naruto thought. He honestly thought that he was out of the line of fire, but it appeared that some of them could tell something was off. He idly wondered if the reason they haven't attacked was because they knew they would lose. After hearing Kiba's thoughts of being an alpha and stuff, it would make sense.